When it comes to being a star in any type of given sport in the world, there's going to be a lot of attention. There's going to be a lot of high expectations. And overall, there's going to be a lot of pressure that's always going to be on you. It's like having a huge weight on top of you. It's like having a huge boulder that you have to carry around on your back 24/7. Now, for this particular individual, he came into the UFC, made a huge bang, was able to get a title shot with just a couple fights in the UFC. And now he's considered one of the most popular fighters in all of mixed martial arts. If you guys know who I'm talking about, I'm obviously talking about the most popular guy when it comes to fandom, when it comes to the whole entire fan base in mixed martial arts, Darren Till. Darren Till is one of the most funniest guys, one of the best personalities you can really ask for in a company, whether we're talking about UFC, Bellator, PFL, One Championship, you name it. Darren Till he's a national treasure, basically, when it comes to mixed martial arts. The guy is the gift that keeps on giving, pretty much like Derek Lewis. If those two had a battle when it comes to being the funniest in the whole entire sport of mixed martial arts, then we'd probably have a tie at least 50 times, 50 out of 50 times. That's how great of an individual Darren Till is. When he came into the UFC, he was relatively unknown, basically, just like everybody else was. Conor McGregor was a relatively unknown talent that came into the UFC just after a couple of fights before he really got into the fans. Fans started loving him, and fans started receiving him with high praises and started receiving him as, as a god in mixed martial arts. Darren Till finally came up on the scene when he fought Cowboy Cerrone, knocked him out. Eventually fought Stephen Thompson, won that fight by unanimous decision, and eventually won on the fight Tyron Woodley. We received the first loss of his career via submission. And the thing about that is that with all the trouble that Darren Till has been having in this career, outside and inside, I believe that loss to Tyron Woodley really did a number on him. I really believe that loss has been on his mind since the very beginning when those two fought. Obviously, Tyron's career went to a down spiral, and Darren Till's career has been up and down lately. And after that first loss, he obviously came back and fought Jorge Masvidal in London, England, in the O2 Arena, which is basically the Madison Square Garden of the UK. He ended up getting knocked out in the second round after almost knocking out Jorge Masvidal in the first round. That was his very first knockout loss in his career. So after being submitted for the first time in his career, then knocked out in the first time in his career, he had to change weight classes. He decided that he wanted to move up to middleweight and fight Calvin Gastelum in MSG. He ended up winning that fight. But then after that, it's just been up and down. He lost against Derek Brunson, which was his most latest loss. He ended up losing against Bobby Knuckles, who happens to be Robert Whittaker, and that fight was absolutely amazing. It was a checkers match, or a chess match, if we're going to be honest right there. And like I said, he's just been up and down. We're trying to figure out what's going on with Darren Till, what happened to him that made him go up and down after he had such a high rise in the UFC. He's still with the company, but he's treading on very, very thin waters right now. And he's currently in hot water as well. Obviously, when you're on a losing skid, there's always the fear that you're going to be cut by the organization that you're signed to. There's always fear that you're no longer going to be part of the organization after a string of losses. And I believe that the reason why Darren Till is still around is because he's still considered one of the best, either at welterweight or middleweight. He just needs to make a couple of changes, and I believe it's psychological. I believe after that first loss to Woodley, he still hasn't gotten over it. His O was taken away, and he's ended up being up and down ever since. And I believe if he got a sports psychologist to be able to uncover what's going on inside of here, he'll eventually be able to figure out and put all the puzzle pieces together and really be able to fix his career in time in order to become a champion. Obviously, there have been people in the UFC that have been there for about 10 years that never gave up on their dreams after losing several matches in a row, but eventually coming back on win streaks and being able to be crowned champion in their respective weight classes. Charlie Oliveira, whatever way you really want to put it. He's been with the UFC for 10 plus years, maybe 11 years now. Never gave up on his dreams. Fought the best of the best at featherweight. Fought the best of the best at lightweight. And now he's the lightweight champion of the world. We also talk about Michael Bisping. He was with the UFC for a very, very long time. Obviously, when times looked extremely rough, he never gave up on his dreams. He rose up to the occasion and became champion with his knockout win over Luke Rockhold. We talk about people that have spent the majority of their lives trying to become champion because they believe in themselves, and Darren Till needs to do that himself. He doesn't need to leave his gym in England. There have been athletes who have won the title, staying with their gyms their whole entire career. Jessica Andrade just happens to be one of them. Obviously, when she beat Rose Namajunas, it was in her native country of Brazil, the country that she's never left to train anywhere else in the world. The majority of the fighters out there, no matter what country they're from, they usually end up having to leave because of the lack of resources that they have at their disposal. Darren Till has a lot of resources in England. I don't believe he has to leave at all, but I would like for him to go back to Brazil because that's where his mixed martial arts career really springboarded. That's where he was fighting before he got called up to the UFC. He was fighting in Brazil. He was fighting in Brazil on these Brazilian shows and was really making a name for himself. And he's also spent about 5 years in Brazil as a Muay Thai coach, where he eventually learned to speak fluent Portuguese. It's eventually where he met his current wife, and now they currently have 2 children. So a lot of good things happened for Darren Till when he was in Brazil. And I'd love for him to go back to Brazil, to be able to go back to a little bit of his roots, and to be able to get that flair back, to get that fire back in his heart and his mind and his soul, in order to get back into the octagon and show to everyone why his first couple of fights in the UFC were no joke, why his rise to the title against Tyron Woodley was no joke, why he was proclaimed as one of the best fighters at that time when he fought Tyron Woodley, no matter in what division it was. Others would probably say that it'd be a good idea for Darren Till to go up to heavyweight or light heavyweight because of his body stature, but I think he's fine at middleweight. And if he wanted to go back to welterweight, it would be extremely hard, but it would put a lot of taxing pressure on his body itself. But the main problem right now with Darren Till is psychological. He needs to get his mind right in order to get everything else connected. If the mind, the body, and the soul aren't connected, if they're not in unison, then it's not going to click on all cylinders. You're not going to have your best performance in any given fight that you're going to have in the future. The past and the present are basically factors that can conclude into the future. And if Darren Till can correct his past and be able to correct the present, which is right now, then he can be able to fix his future before things go south, before things are too late. And if he does go back to Brazil, which I would like to see that happen. I'd like for him to go to Brazil right anytime, at least for about a couple of months or so, get his mind right, go back to his roots down there, be able to coach a couple more Muay Thai classes, get comfortable. And also, I would really like them to keep staying in Las Vegas as well, because there's so many different things in Las Vegas. Obviously, a lot of British fighters have moved to Las Vegas. A lot of fighters in general have moved to Las Vegas because of the UFC PI. We've seen Darren Till in there with a lot of his videos, training extremely hard. He's ready to go. He really wants to get back in there. He really wants to make a difference. He wants to show everybody why he still got it. And before he does, I really, really want him to fix what's going on up in there, because I believe my heart and soul that first loss to Tyron Woodley is still knacking at him. That first KO loss to Jorge Masvidal is still knacking at him. Those 2 losses were a 1-2 punch that have still been affecting him negatively till this day. And since those fights, he's only had 1 win in the octagon, and that was against Kelvin Gastelum, who is another struggling UFC fighter right now. But let me know, guys, if you guys have any other factors or any other reasons why things are going south for Darren Till right now. Let me know in the comments section, because there's so many different things that could be going on with him. And he did have a couple of rough goings outside of the octagon. He had that whole situation with the police. He had that whole situation at that Spain hotel room where him and his friends absolutely trashed it and left. So obviously not that many good things going on outside of the octagon for Darren Till. But after having his second daughter, he's basically been calmed down, and he's had a cool, calm demeanor nowadays, and for the best as well. So obviously, I appreciate you guys for watching this video. I just wanted to put this out there because I believe that Darren Till is still one of the best in the world. He has so many weapons in this arsenal. I really just want him to be able to work on his jiu-jitsu and work on his ground game, and especially the wrestling defense. Because if he can prevent guys from taking him down, he is a force to be reckoned with in the UFC and also on the feet as well. I appreciate you guys for watching the video. Stay safe, stay blessed. I'll talk to you guys soon. Later.